The blessed part about the Christian faith is a lot of pressure's off of us because I don't save anybody. I've never saved a soul. Jesus does that. Now, I win them by my testimony, by sharing my salvation story or sharing the actual gospel. That wins them to Christ. But do I save them? No, I don't have that ability to save them. So it's not like I can say, oh wow, I went out, I saw 50 people, I got 25 saved. Woo! I'm in there, 50%. You know, I'm 50% from the field. That's not how we do it as Christians. 2 Corinthians 5:17. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creature. The old things have passed away. Behold, new things have come, or behold, all things have come new. And so, if we're in Christ, once again, getting the credit. Christ does the saving. Christ makes us new. Christ passes away the old things. So we have to keep in mind that we're working at this thing called evangelism, but God is going to get the credit. Jesus gets the credit for salvation. It's not us. It's not how eloquent we speak. It's not how many tracts we hand out. It's not how many scriptures we can quote that gets us the credit for saving anybody. Christ gets the credit. And so you have a lot of Christians who kind of compete at evangelism. Or it's like, well, how many people did you get saved? I got 10 saved. Well, it's like you can't get into that because at the end of the day, Jesus gets the credit because Jesus did the saving. The Holy Spirit did the drawing. And the Father already knew who was going to be saved in the first place. So it's a Trinitarian victory, not Salim's degrees or Salim's understanding of the scriptures. This is what got somebody saved. No, salvation belongs to the Lord. And so we have to understand that it's not a natural thing. It's not something that a man has the ability to do. And the Bible talks about the natural man is the non-Christian. It says the natural man does not accept the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness to him, and he cannot understand them because they are spiritually appraised. And that's 1 Corinthians 2:14. So in my natural ability, I don't have the ability to save anyone. It is the Spirit of God which gives me the power and gives me the ability to even discuss the things of God. So I want to keep in mind that whomever I'm dealing with, that I'm working out my salvation and working to tell them about the gospel, that the victory of salvation belongs to Jesus. And Ephesians 2:8-9, for by grace you have been saved through faith, and that is not of yourselves, it is the gift of God, not as a result of works, so that no one may boast. And this is what separates the Christian faith from all other faiths. You look at Jehovah's Witness faith, they literally are competing to get people converted. It's a competition, because if I get X amount of people converted, then I get some type of special reward, at the end. And in Islam, it's a work to keep up this religion that I'm in. I have to constantly keep working. And then when I get before God on Judgment Day, I hope and I pray that my good scale outweighs my bad scale. That's really essentially, at the end of the day, when it comes to salvation in Islam, it's up to Allah, and Allah decides if your good outweighs your bad. If Allah really is God, then the scriptures make it very clear that no one is righteous. All have fallen short of the glory of God. So everybody's bad outweighs their good. All the time, every single time. And so that's why it's so important for us to understand that Jesus gets us saved. That Jesus is why we are saved. So evangelism is work, but it's God's work. Also, prayer is a must. Prayer is a must. Okay? Jesus talking about casting out a specific type of demon of this man, and the disciples couldn't do it. He said, this kind does not go out except by prayer and fasting. There are some things you will encounter when you're out doing evangelism, that if you don't have a lifestyle of prayer and fasting, you will lose that particular battle you come up against. There are individuals who are walking around under the influence of the enemy that you will encounter on the streets, and you might have to engage in some type of spiritual warfare, some type of heated discussion, or whatever the case might be. But if we're not praying and we're not fasting, we will lose these various victories, these battles. And so it's important we keep in mind we have to have a lifestyle of prayer and fasting if we are to go out and be effective in our evangelism. In 1 Corinthians 3, yes. No, you have a question?
Just give us an idea of what biblical fasting looks like.
Biblical fasting, was like the turning down of one's plate or denying something that the flesh wants. Most of the time, because of the culture that Jesus lived in, it pertained to food, because that was their thing. Like, food was their survival method. And so if I gave up food, I was proving that I didn't need food to survive. I just needed God. And that's why Jesus said, man cannot live by bread alone, but every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. You fast forward today, if you keep the principle of denying what I consider to be a need. First, for them it was food, because they didn't have iPods and computers and vacations and all that stuff. Like, some people are like, well, I don't really need food, but I need my phone, or I need my TV, or I need my job. These are the things we consider to be these essential needs that if we don't have them, we can't live without them. So when we keep the principle of fasting, is we give up something that we consider to be a legitimate need for the sake of Christ, and prove to ourselves, to our flesh in particular, that I can survive without this. Like, I had a friend of mine when we were in seminary, he went on a bed fast. He fasted from a bed. He slept on the floor for 40 days. Friends I've heard have gone on shoe fast, where they went 40 days without shoes on their feet. I've gone on a juice fast, where I literally went 10 days and all I had was juice. I didn't have any food or anything like that. So it all depends on with you and God, what is something that you feel like I'm dependent upon that I need to give up. Typically it is food for a lot of us. I've had people say, I can never give up food. Well, why not? You won't die. You'll actually be stronger. If you look at Daniel, what happened to them, they did not honestly believe that people could get stronger if it wasn't for eating this type of meat and this type of quantity and doing all these things. They said, why don't you just give us vegetables and water, and we'll see who comes out better.
So you would say a good place to start is to pray for God to show you.
Yeah. Definitely seek the Lord about, Lord, what is it that I need to give up? Some things might be permanent. Some things might be, you need to scale back on this. You need to fast. It's a matter of giving up something for the sake of Christ, and not something easy. I can imagine living in a desert culture, giving up bread. That's hard. Like, this is literally all we have. It's like bread and grapes and stuff, and you tell me to give this up? But somebody give up bread today is like, I don't even eat bread. You see, it's like you have to keep it in context. And for some of us, it is food. It's like we need it. We've never given up a meal. We need to give up a meal. That's why, when I do the youth in my church and we talk about fasting, I always tell them, like, pick candy, because for them, candy is like everything. Like, well, why don't you give up candy for 2 days? Just give it up for 2 days, and see what comes out of it. And so fasting is a lost art. I believe in the church. It's not something that's really taught on. And the power of fasting, because the less dependent are we upon our flesh, the more dependent we are upon God. And even the Bible talks about with married couples, it's good to separate for a period of time and then come back together, before it talks about the enemy trying to get a foothold in. So it even encourages fasting from our spouses. For men sometimes that could be a blessing. Like, woo, freedom! But and vice versa. But it's important, that fasting keeps us in the perspective that all we need is God. At the end of the day, we need the Lord more than we need food, more than we need clothing, more than we need prestige, more than we need all of these things. The biggest need we have in life is the Lord. And if we don't have the Lord, we'll live our lives trying to satisfy ourselves with all these other things that can't do the job that Jesus can do. That's kind of a long answer. But and sometimes you need to fast from good things. It's not always a bad thing. Well, I need to give up this. It's sometimes it's a good thing. You need to fast from. It could be you're constantly working. It's not working hard is important. Especially as men, sometimes we can be overboard in our work, and it's important sometimes we need to just like, let me just take a break. That's why God created the Sabbath. The Sabbath was made for us, not for God. And the Israelites kind of took that to the next level. But in the Protestant church especially, we don't really honor the Sabbath. We kind of just keep going and don't stop. And then when we get up in church, we go even harder. And then Monday comes back around and we still go. So it's like, when do I take a break, you know?